In this video, we will explore how to play the base game of Carcassonne. There are several expansions for this game, but for this video, we will really focus on how to play the original game. If you're playing for the first time, I recommend starting this way. The game becomes more and more interesting each time you add an expansion, but each of them comes with additional rules, so it's good to introduce them one at a time, allowing yourself to get accustomed to each set of rules. Toward the end of the video, I'll guide you to my tutorials on other expansion if you want to delve deeper. Alright, no more time to waste, let's dive into the explanation.
Carcassonne is a competitive game where players create a map featuring roads, cities, and monasteries. Fields are also part of the game, but if it's your first time playing, I recommend a game or two before incorporating them. That's why I'll only discuss about fields a bit later. The goal is to claim these features on the map to score points. The player with most points at the end wins, and the game concludes when the last tile is played. Before beginning, each player chooses their color and claim the 8 small characters of that color. These small characters are called meeples. Carefully shuffle all the game tiles face down on the table. You will notice that one of them is darker than the others. This is the initial tile. It must be placed in the center of the table even before starting to play. For all the remaining tiles, create small stacks distributed around the table so that each player can draw from them when it's their turn. There's also a scoreboard. Each player places one of their 8 meeples on the 0 space. According to the official rules, it's the youngest player who starts. However, as with any good game, rules can vary slightly in each household. In mine, re-roll a die and the player with the highest number goes first. So, the first player randomly selects a tile from any of the stack, and that's where the rules become interesting. The tile must be placed in a way to establish a connection with any tile on the existing map. For now, there's only one, so it's easy, but it becomes more and more complex as the game progresses. This one is a great example. It can be placed in 4 different ways to extend the road. It can also be placed in a way to complete the city. And finally, in another way to expand the field. For instance, we cannot place the city against the grass. We also cannot do this with the road. Tiles must be placed logically, ensuring each one form a cohesive connection. You can't place it corner to corner with another tile. It must be compatible with all sides of each neighboring tile. And you don't place the tile anywhere. You strategically place it to earn points. After placing the tile, the player can then set one of its meeple onto a chosen feature of the newly placed tile. Very important, you can only claim what is on the just placed tile. Furthermore, you can only play up to 1 meeple per turn. So in this case, I could claim ownership of the city or the road. For this example, I'll take possession of the city. I will only be able to score a point once it is completed or when the game is finished. The same principle applies to each type of property. By placing my meeple in the city, I've just claimed it. But this position will only be transformed into points when I'll successfully close it. For instance, with a tile like this one. The best thing to do when placing this tile would have actually been to close the city immediately. However, the city can also become much more larger. Now, let's talk about the point system. For a city, we count 1 point per tile, so in this case, that's 5 points. Additionally, we tally up a point for each coat of arms, this little blue and white shield. Finally, we double the score when we successfully close the city. So, if the game ended and the top tile was missing, the city would only be worth 5 points. 4 points for the city tiles and 1 point for the coat of arms. But by closing it, it's now worth 12 points. 5 points for the tiles, and 1 point for the coat of arms. So, 6 points, which we double because the city is now closed. Therefore, 12 points. A city is closed when it's surrounded by fortification. The meeple inside the city is called a knight. When the city is closed, we remove the knight and place it back in the meeple reserve, and advance by 12 points on the scoreboard. For the roads, it follows the same principle. It can extend over a considerable distance, but some tiles close off the roads. One might conclude at the entrance of a city or in a village. So on this tile, there are 3 options to place your highwayman. Yes, the meeple position on the road is called a highwayman. It could be placed on any of the 3 roads. However, since this road have just been closed, the owner of the road can now score their points. A road is worth 1 point per tile, whether it's closed or not. In this case, it's worth 8 points. Finally, last type of features you can claim is the monastery. The meeple you place on it is called a monk. The monastery scores 1 point for itself and for each surrounding tiles. It is considered completed once it is entirely surrounded by tiles. In this case, it would be a good idea to place it where it would be the most surrounded. Perhaps here, it's already scored 7 points. A strategy to adopt with monastery is to work around it. This way, you score a point in double. For example, if I draw this road at 90-degree angle, I will claim it to score a point on the road as well as the monastery at the same time. Once completed, I remove my monk, who returns to my meeple reserve and scored 9 points on the scoreboard. If the monastery is not completed by the end of the game, it still scores 1 point for each surrounding tile as well as 1 point for itself. For example, like this, it would score 7 points. So in summary, each feature scores 1 point per tile. In the case of the monastery, it's 1 point for itself and each surrounding tiles. For the road, it's 1 point per tile. The city has some particularities. We had 1 point for each coat of arms present in the city, and finally, we double the points if we manage to close the city before the end of the game. Well, it seemed all fun and enjoyable, but Carcassonne is a competitive game. To win the game, you need to score more points than the other players. And to outscore your opponent, you can take advantage of their efforts just like a vulture, or even cunning tactics to complicate their task. For instance, you can intrude into another player's city. But be cautious, it's not done just anyway. Let's say that yellow has been diligently building its city and blue wants to get in because he just drew this tile. Well, he couldn't just stick it on there and claim it because you can't add a meeple to a city or a road that is already occupied by another meeple. However, if the tile is placed like this, it's no longer the same city. But if the two meet during one of the upcoming turns, it is possible that yellow and blue will share the points. Yellow would just have to hope to draw a tile like this one to block the path for blue. In doing so, yellow closed blue's cities, earning 4 points at the same time because his city has just been closed. However, yellow scored his own 12 points alone without sharing them with blue. However, if the next tile is placed, the city closed instantly, and both blue and yellow score 14 points each because they are both knights equally present in the city. However, yellow could defend himself differently. This tile could also be placed like this. In doing so, yellow also starts a new city and has the chance to eventually close it with a tile like this. In this case, yellow has 2 knights in the city, while blue has only 1. Yellow is stronger, so he alone takes all the point. Everyone retrieves their meeples, and yellow score 18 points. 7 for the city tiles, 2 for the coat of arms. Multiply by 2 because the city is completed. And it's exactly the same principle for roads. But it's important to remember that under no circumstances you can add a meeple to anything where another meeple is already present, even if it's your own. So if yellow extends his road, he cannot strengthen his presence. He must use the same strategy to reinforce his presence by establishing himself on a new road nearby the other and hoping to reconnect it later. Another strategy to harm the opponent is to throw a monkey wrench into his plans. For example, here, blue has a very large city that is about to be completed. And his chance to achieve this are really high because there are 6 types of tile that can fit into this spot. Only if yellow adds this tile here, now only 2 of the 6 previously compatible tiles can work to close his city because we had a compatibility factor. Before, the tile only needed to have 2 sides of a city. Now, we had a side of a road to all of that. Blue's chances of drawing a compatible tile to double his point are significantly reduced. Now, we'll go through a game example to apply the rules more concretely. A game with 2 players and a game with 3 or more players are very different. The thing with 2 players is that when you intrude into another player's property, you essentially cancel out his point because you advance with him. With 3 or more players, it becomes more a team effort as 2 players can progress quickly together against others. So, I will make an example with 3 players. Yellow draws this tile with 2 cities. The most logical choice would be to immediately close the city that is not claimed by anyone yet. So, he takes possession of the city on his tile as well as the neighboring tile because it's now the same city. Since the city is already closed, he instantly scores 4 points on the scoreboard and can already retrieve his meeple. It's great to be able to score a point like this because when all of your meeples are on the map, you must continue placing tile, but you cannot claim anything new until something is closed. It's Blue's turn. He draws a monastery with a road. By placing it here, it closes one side of the road, but Blue takes possession of the monastery because its point potential is more interesting. Red draws a city with a coat of arms. He places it on the only available city and claims it. Yellow draws a crossroad. He has the opportunity to score 3 points instantly by closing the road. Thus, he can place a highwayman and immediately remove it, scoring 3 points. Blue obtained a great tile, some grass with a city. By placing it here, he can hope to work with red on his own city, which is already well underway. Moreover, he scores a point because he had a tile that works on his monastery. Red draws another monastery with a road. The logical thing to do would be to claim it at the north of this road because it would already score 5 points as it would be well surrounded. However, I'm not drawing the tiles randomly for this example because I want to expose rare events. So, Red will place his monastery to the east of the village and take possession of the monastery. This is an event that happens very rarely. The game is practically unbreakable, but not completely. This tile cannot be placed anywhere. On one side, there is a city. However, the only open city requires a tile with at least 2 sides of city. And on the other 3 sides, there's a road. There is only one open road, but it cannot be placed on it because in any case, there is an incompatibility with the tile on the left. Since it cannot be placed anywhere, yellow must eliminate this tile from the game and draw a second one. But yellow is really unlucky. He just drew the worst tile he could have. This one have almost the same problem as the previous one. None of the sides are made of grass, so it cannot be placed against another grass tile. There's a road, But again, it's not compatible with the only available road because it conflicts with the tile on the left. There is only one place it can go. And even if it's really not to his advantage, yellow is forced to place it in the only place it can go. That's here. By placing it here, it connects the city of red and blue. But yellow cannot even claim it because there are already other knights in the city. He has just closed the city of its two opponent with a tile that worth 4 points on its own. One for the city, one for the coat of arms, and we double it because the city is now closed. Blue and red retrieve their knights and each score 12 points on the scoreboard. 4 for the city tiles, 2 for the coat of arms, a total of 6 that we multiply by 2 because the city is closed. Blue draws a road at 90-degree angle. He places it next to his monastery. He will be able to work on it at the same time as his road. Red draws a crossroad. He places it right next to Blue's, earning him a point on his road. However, he hopes to reclaim it later by connecting his new road to Blue's. Yellow draws this tile and claim the city. He could place it over there, but it wouldn't be wise. Not only does Red Monastery create a limitation for his expansion, but it would also be working for Red as he surrounds his monastery. He could also place it up here. That would make sense because it gives him a nice open space to expand his city. But he will do something even better. He will position it lower. This gives him the same nice open space without constraint to expand, but in doing so, it throws a wrench into Blue's plan to continue his road. Exactly like that. Blue cannot continue his road this way. So, he will start a new one south of his monastery to work on 2 projects at the same time. With this tile, Red will start a new city that he will build next to his monastery to work on both simultaneously. Here, Yellow will undoubtedly expand his city. He will not do it in this direction because the road will become a limitation for the next tiles. So, he places it with the exit to the west to facilitate the continuation. And I remind you that since he is already present in this city, he cannot place another knight in his city to reinforce his ownership. Blue is lucky. He drew the tile that he needs to continue his road. But he has a dilemma. He could place it right next to the tile Yellow just placed and claim 4 road tiles all at once. At the same time, it's exactly the tile he needs. But Blue make a master move with this tile. He will, in one go, continue his road, but he will also do something that we haven't seen yet. He will lay his meeple on the grass. In doing so, he becomes a farmer. The farmer owns the fields. I told you I would come back to it later. Well, here we are. And I still recommend avoiding this part if it's your first time playing. But basically, when you place a farmer on the grass, it's exactly the same rules as with a road or a city. You can place a farmer on the land only if there is no other farmer on that field already. And a piece of land can be very, very large. The field is delimited by road and city walls. So the current piece of land is delimited by the road to the north, the road to the west, the large hearth-shaped city, the small road to the south, and the small road to the east. However, it bypassed the road to the south thanks to the monasteries. It extends all the way to the east. There are some things that are a bit different with the fields though. Since we count fields point only at the end of the game, when you place a farmer, you lose that meeple until the end of the game. The scoring system is also different. Instead of counting points per field tile, we count 3 points for each completed city on that land. It's kind of the tax that the city pays to the farmer for being on its land. If the game ended now, Blue would score 6 points with his farmer. 3 points for the large heart-shaped city, and 3 points for the small city. The size of the city doesn't matter. A city is always worth 3 points. So it's more profitable to create small cities on your land. The red's city at the far end is worth nothing yet for the farmer because it's not completed. So, in summary, a farmer is a meeple lying on the grass. He owns all the land until it's separated by a road or a city. When you set a farmer, you lose it for the rest of the game and only score a point at the end of the game. Red make a nice move here. He works on his city, he works on his monastery, and he claims the road. Yellow closes city and score 8 points and take the opportunity to start a new city. With this tile, blue successfully closes road. It may not have been his best move as he also given it to red. But, well, he just freed his highwayman and he can now take advantage to place a knight in the new city. Attention, the move I've just made is not technically correct. This is how we play in normal time, but it should be noted that the evaluation is done at the end of the turn. Technically, you must place a meeple from your supply on the city and then remove the highwayman. It doesn't change anything in most cases, but it makes a big difference if you have no more meeples left in your supply. So, be careful. If you want to make the move I've just made, you must at least have one meeple left in your reserve if you want to do it. But, well, let's get back to the game. It was certainly not the best plan for blue. He should have placed this tile near his monastery, but I want to create an interesting example to demonstrate. Like this. Red and blue both collected the point from the road, but in this case, with only 4 road tiles, there are 5 road segments, because the 2 road sections on the crossroad are independent. We could therefore believe that there are 5 points to score. But when 2 independent sections on the same tile are part of a single entity, they count only once. In this case, there are 4 points to score for our 2 highwaymen on this completed road. We could also have a similar example with a city, like this one. 5 independent city sections, yet only 4 points multiplied by 2 for a total of 8. This tile only count once. Let's now return to our game. Red makes a tactical move with his road that could earn him several points if he's lucky. In one go, he works on his road, on his monastery, and he plays a farmer. Currently, it's earned him nothing because the only city touching this field is not even closed. But it's possible that this field will eventually join the one of blue. Yellow doesn't make a good move at all, but I still need him to play poorly to provide an example. He give a road point to blue, but he take position on a new road. At his turn, blue obtain a road that he used to continue the same road. In doing so, he completes his monastery. His monk then returned to his reserve of meeples and he scored 9 points. 1 point for the monastery and each tile surrounding it. Red is lucky. It's almost like if I pick the perfect tile for him. Things rarely go this smoothly when playing for real. I just want to create a beautiful example to illustrate the game for you. So, he placed it to close off his road. He scored 4 points for the road, but that's not the best move, because he just connected his field to blues. Red and blue will both score points at the end of the game for this field. Well, there are many more tiles in the game, but let's pretend yellow just drew the last one. Of course, yellow will go and close off his city all the way to the north. His city, which has only worth 1 point until now, is now worth 4 points. And since it's the last tile, yellow won't take control of the new city because he won't be able to finish it. It would only give him 1 point. Instead, he plays a farmer. This one will soon earn him 3 points because the neighboring city is closed off. Once all the tiles are placed, it's time to count all the remaining points on the map. Let's start with yellow, who scores 1 point for his road and 3 points for its field. Blue scores 1 point for his city and 3 points for his road. He is tied on the large field, which still only counts 2 finished cities. Blue and red both score 6 points. Red scores 6 points on his monastery. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And finally 3 points for his city. 1, 2, 3. City points are not double because it's not finished. And there you have it. All the points are counted. Yellow has 23 points. Blue and red are tied at the top with 35 points each. So they are both winners of the game. If you happen to score a lot of points and go beyond 0, which is very likely if you play with expansion. I have finished some games with over 300 points, if it's not 400. Some version of the games come with scoring tiles, so you can add a 50 point or even flip it to 100. Keep these tiles close to you to keep track of your points.
So, there you go. I hope this was helpful. Making a rule explanation video took much more work than I expected. If there's interest, I'll make video on the numerous expansion available on the playlist you will find at the end of the video in just a few seconds. If you want more details on the rules, I'll leave a link in the description to the official game instruction. And if you think of a detail I haven't mentioned, feel free to let me know in the comment. I'll add it in the description. For example, I just thought of something. While playing, your map may extend to the edge of the table. Well, the rules state that the first tile must be placed in the center of the table. So technically, you can't move the tiles to make space. Unless you have another table to put next to your main table, the edge of the table represents the furthest you can go. Anyway, there are really lots of detail like that to think about. Regardless, the most important thing is that you have fun playing Carcassonne. So, take care, and I'll see you soon. See ya!